Your enemies will never respect you if you keep trying to win their approval. But Marcus Aurelius discovered something counterintuitive 2,000 years ago that transforms hatred into respect without you changing a single word you say. The Roman emperor faced countless political enemies who wanted him dead, yet he developed a psychological framework so powerful that even his harshest critics began to admire his unshakable character. This ancient wisdom can turn your biggest opponents into people who secretly respect your strength, and it all starts with one Stoic principle that most people get completely backwards. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and comment what part of the world you're watching from, because now I'm going to tell you everything. What would you do if everyone around you doubted you, spoke against you, or did not respect you? Would you change to please them, or would you try to stay true to yourself? Marcus Aurelius was a young man when he became the emperor of Rome, a vast and powerful land. Many people think that being an emperor means having everything you want, being respected by all, and living a life without problems. But the truth is different. Marcus did not have an easy life, even with all the power of Rome behind him. His days were full of challenges, worries, and the need to prove himself. Marcus lived in ancient Rome, a very big and important city many years ago. The Roman Empire was one of the most powerful empires in the world. People in Rome spoke in Latin, wore simple clothes called tunics, and lived in houses made of stone. The city was full of noise, with markets, soldiers, and crowds of people. Streets were busy from early morning until it was dark. There were beautiful buildings, but also narrow, crowded roads where ordinary people tried to live their lives. When Marcus became emperor, he was still very young. Many people around him were much older. They had their own opinions about who should be in charge, and some thought Marcus did not deserve to be the leader. Even though he wore the title of emperor, not everyone called him great or treated him with respect. Some even talked behind his back, calling him weak or saying he only got his position because of luck, not skill. Every day, Marcus had to meet with advisors and senators. These men were powerful and had influence over the people. Some of them tried to make Marcus feel unsure. They would whisper quietly to each other when he spoke. They would question his every decision. Sometimes they laughed at his ideas or sighed when he tried to speak about what was important to him. In the big meetings in the grand halls, Marcus often felt like he was alone, even though the room was full of people. There were also people in the city who did not like the emperor. Some did not trust him because he was new. Others remembered old rulers and wanted things to stay the same. There were posters on walls, ugly words shouted in the streets, and sometimes even songs mocking the emperor sung by unhappy people at night. Marcus could not hide from all of this. Every day, the voices of disapproval found a way to reach him. Being emperor meant making hard choices. There were wars in faraway lands. Soldiers needed food, money, and strong leaders to guide them. Sometimes there were fights among the Roman leaders themselves. There were arguments about money, about land, and about who had the right answer for Rome's troubles. When things went wrong, people looked to Marcus to blame. When decisions had to be made, Marcus could not make everyone happy. Whichever choice he made, some would complain, others would talk behind his back, and a few would openly call him foolish. Even in his own home, Marcus did not always feel at ease. Any word spoken could spread quickly. Servants, guards, and visitors would listen closely. If Marcus showed anger or fear, people would tell stories about it. If he was kind or patient, people would say he was soft. No matter what he did, there was someone ready to criticize. Sometimes even his friends would warn him. They would say, "Marcus, you need to be tougher. You need to act differently so people will respect you." It is not easy to know how to act when everyone has a different idea of what you should do. The pressure was very great. Each day, Marcus faced more than just his official duties. He faced the constant worry of how people saw him. He wondered if he was good enough, or if he could ever win the trust of those who doubted him. At times, he felt alone, surrounded by people but missing true friends. At the same time, Rome was filled with problems. There were armies on the borders, waiting to invade. Sometimes there were not enough supplies for the people. Food could be short, money could run low. The weather might stay cold for many weeks, making it hard to grow crops. Fires could break out in the city. There were illnesses that spread quickly and took away many lives. All of these problems came to Marcus, and he had to find answers. If he failed, people would be angry or scared, and they would blame him. As emperor, Marcus had to act as leader, judge, and protector. People came to him with their problems. Leaders from far parts of the empire brought news, sometimes good and sometimes bad. Marcus listened, but he could not always fix every problem right away. People expected him to be wise, to be strong, and to never show weakness. Some wanted him to rule with force and to show no mercy. Others wanted him to be gentle and avoid war. Whatever he did, someone would always disagree. It was not only enemies or strangers who gave Marcus trouble. Sometimes people he trusted let him down. There were those who said kind words to his face, but spoke badly about him when he was gone. Some tried to use their friendship with the emperor for their own gain. There were also those who changed sides quickly, supporting Marcus one day and then working against him the next. This made it difficult for Marcus to know who to trust. Marcus understood that being emperor was not about being popular. It meant doing what was right, even when it was hard or when people complained. He tried to listen to everyone, but sometimes he had to make choices that hurt some people in order to protect the greater good. Even when he was fair, there were people who called him weak or called him cruel. It seemed that no matter what he did, respect was something he had to earn, not something given freely because of his title. There were nights when Marcus could not sleep. He thought about all that happened during the day. He worried about his choices. He asked himself if he was becoming the kind of leader Rome needed. He wondered if he should try to please the advisors and senators more, or if he should stand alone and do what he believed to be right. It was hard not to feel small under so much pressure. Outside the palace, the city of Rome did not rest. There were riots in the market if food was not enough. There were celebrations when victories came from far away, but anger and fear when soldiers brought bad news. The people remembered old times and old emperors. They talked about what they had lost and wondered if Marcus Aurelius could be the one to bring Rome back to greatness. Each day, he faced their expectations and their doubts. Marcus also faced the problem of his own fears. Even the emperor is a person with worries and doubts. He knew he could make mistakes. He knew that every decision could have big results, affecting thousands, sometimes millions of people. The weight of all this was heavy. It would be easy to try to push these fears away, to pretend they did not exist. But Marcus was honest with himself. He knew he was not perfect. He knew that not everyone liked him, and some never would. Still, Marcus did not give up. He got up each morning and faced his duties. He talked with people, even those who were not friendly. He listened to complaints, even when the words were hard to hear. He was calm when he wanted to shout. He was patient, even when people were unfair. Every day was a lesson. He saw how people acted, and he learned about himself as well. Marcus tried to be strong, but he also tried to be wise. He knew that if he let anger or fear lead him, his choices would not be good ones. He wrote in his journal to remind himself of what he wanted to be. He wrote that he must not let harsh words hurt him, and that he must not become proud when people praised him. He told himself in simple words to be steady, fair, and kind. He wanted to remember that respect could not be forced or demanded. It had to be earned. But how do you earn respect when so many people are against you? Marcus had to find his own answer. Some people in his place might have tried to please everyone. They might have changed their words each day, saying what they thought others wanted to hear. They might have punished their enemies harshly to show their strength, or given gifts and favors to win approval. Marcus saw other leaders do these things, but he wondered if that kind of respect was real or only temporary. Marcus took a different path. He chose not to shout back at every insult or to punish everyone who disagreed with him. He learned from watching others that trying too hard to win praise only made a person look weak. People lose respect for leaders who always try to please everyone. Marcus understood that if he tried to change himself for every opinion, he would lose his own sense of what was right. He also saw that some leaders tried to silence their critics with force. But this did not bring real respect either. People feared them, but fear is not respect. Marcus did not want to be feared. He wanted to be respected for his sense of fairness, for his wisdom, and for his calm strength. He realized that respect was not something he could demand. It had to come from his actions, not from his words. The life of Marcus Aurelius was filled with pressure and expectation. Every person around him watched his every move, waiting to see if he would fail or succeed. Every mistake was seen and remembered. When things went well, few stopped to thank him. When things went wrong, everyone blamed him. Yet, day after day, Marcus Aurelius chose to lead by example. He tried to be steady, even when the world around him felt uncertain. Marcus's story teaches a simple lesson. The higher your position, the more you face doubt, criticism, and pressure to change. This is a fact that does not change, even for an emperor. Yet in this difficult world, Marcus tried to find a better way. He wanted to learn how to win true respect, not by shouting, not by changing who he was, and not by giving in to fear. He understood that respect begins with how you treat others, how you handle your own emotions, and how you stay true even when it is hard. In the world of ancient Rome, with all its noise and troubles, this was the quiet but strong path that Marcus chose. It is a simple idea, but one that changed his life and the lives of many who came after him. Marcus Aurelius spent many days listening to the voices around him. In his palace, in the streets, and in his long meetings, he heard other people give their opinions. Some people were very strong in their ideas. Others were loud and sure of themselves. Some people looked at Marcus and waited for him to agree with them. There were also people who watched his every move, trying to guess what he wanted so they could copy him. All these different people wanted to be liked or respected. They each wanted to feel accepted. It is very common for a person to want others to accept them. This starts when people are young and continues as they grow older. Many people, even leaders and powerful ones, feel this need. Marcus also felt it, especially when he first became emperor. He wanted to do a good job. He wished that those around him would like his ideas and support him. He noticed that when he received praise, he would feel happy. When people said negative things or ignored him, he would feel sad or even worried. When you want to be liked by others, it can seem very important. It can feel like approval from others will make everything better. Many people believe that if they can say the right thing or do what others accept, then they will finally feel respected. This hope makes them focus their words and actions on making others happy. They might change their tone, their choices, and even their beliefs to fit in. They start to act, not for themselves, but always thinking about what someone else will think. Marcus noticed this in himself. Early in his rule, he worried when people disagreed with him. He tried to find ways to change their minds. He sometimes thought about changing his ideas just to fit the wishes of those who spoke loudly or complained. He gave special attention to words from important senators or rich advisors. If they were happy, he felt successful. If they were angry or quiet, he felt nervous. It became more and more natural to focus on what everyone else wanted. Some days he would lie awake at night, thinking about what he should have said or done, or what others might be saying about him after he left the room. This feeling is not only something Marcus experienced, It is very common in all people. When someone joins a new group, starts a new job, or finds themselves with people who seem more powerful, they might begin to try hard to fit in. They look for clues about what others like. They might wear certain clothes, use certain words, or change the way they speak. If people laugh, they join the laughter, even if they do not think the joke is funny. If people show anger, they might try to be angry as well, even if they do not feel it. They become afraid to act or speak in a way that others might not like. This fear can grow. As Marcus Aurelius watched this play out in his court and inside himself, he saw that wanting approval is not simple. It is not only about wanting to be liked. It can take over a person's thoughts. When every choice is about making other people happy, it becomes hard to know what you really think or feel. People start to forget what they really care about. It is easy to think, if I can just make everyone happy, then I will be safe and respected. But Marcus realized this is not true. There were many days when Marcus thought about how to act. He wanted to be fair, but he also wanted to avoid conflict. He wanted to be wise, but he was afraid to be different from what others expected. When he spoke in front of his advisors and soldiers, he wanted their eyes to show approval, not doubt. He hoped that if he just chose the right words, those who disliked him would finally become his friends. It seemed like if he could only try a little harder, everything would be better. Sometimes Marcus acted only to please others. He said things he did not fully believe because he hoped it would stop arguments. He nodded along with ideas that he did not agree with, just to avoid making enemies. At times, he avoided sharing his true thoughts in meetings because he worried people would laugh or judge him. This helped him for a short time. Fewer people complained. There was less anger in the room. But after these moments, Marcus felt unsure of himself. He did not feel proud or strong. Instead, he felt confused. Trying to please everyone brought new problems. Marcus Aurelius realized that when you put all your energy into other people's approval, you lose confidence in your own ideas. When you change to fit every opinion, you start to forget who you are. The more you say and do just to make others happy, the harder it is to make good choices for yourself. Marcus saw that this way of living could not last long. The world around him was always changing, and people's opinions changed even faster. If he depended on their approval to feel good, he would always feel unstable. He also noticed something else. People who tried too hard to be liked often lost respect in the eyes of others. Marcus watched some men in his court agree with everyone and change their ideas from one hour to the next. At first, people listened to them. After some time, these men were seen as weak. People joked about them in private. Everyone knew that these men would say anything just to avoid trouble. No one trusted them because they never seemed honest or firm. It made Marcus think, if you spend all your energy changing for others, do you gain anything that really matters? Marcus did not want to lead like this. He wanted to be respected, not just liked. But the more he tried to win approval by changing his words and actions, the less respect he felt from others, and even from himself. He started to see that respect and approval are not the same thing. You can make someone happy for a short time, but that does not mean they respect you. Respect comes from something deeper. Days passed, and Marcus kept thinking about this problem. He looked back on decisions he made only to make others happy, and he asked himself if he was being honest. He realized that he sometimes felt empty after these moments. When he tried to change himself to fit other people's expectations, he lost part of his confidence. He could see that if he kept following this road, he would become a leader that nobody truly believed in. He also learned that trying to please everyone never really works. There are always people who want something different. Each time you change for one group, another group complains. Each time you make a promise to one person, someone else feels ignored. Marcus noticed that no matter how hard he tried to listen to everyone, and do what they wanted, there was always someone who felt upset or left out. It seemed impossible to make everyone happy at the same time. This problem is something many people experience, not just emperors. As Marcus learned these lessons, he became more careful about the choices he made. He still listened to advice, but he stopped changing himself only to get approval. He began to see the value of being steady. He realized that if he wanted real respect, he needed to be honest and clear about his ideas, even if that did not make everyone happy. The more he tried to speak the truth and do what he thought was right, the more he felt confident. He also noticed that people began to trust his words more. Marcus found that it was much easier to make choices when he was honest with himself. When he let go of the need to please every person, he could think more calmly. He did not have to worry about every small reaction or guess what others might think. This made his mind more clear. He could focus on what was best for his city and his people, not just what was popular in the moment. He also discovered that he could still be kind and listen to others without changing his own values. Being true to yourself does not mean ignoring people or refusing to learn. Marcus wanted to be fair and wise, but he understood that he could do this without giving up his own beliefs just to fit in. When he listened carefully. When he spoke, his words matched his true thoughts. This way of acting made others begin to watch him more closely, and many began to respect his calm and steady way. The people close to Marcus started to notice this change in him. At first, some were surprised that he spoke more honestly and did not agree with every idea. A few people were upset that he did not try as hard to make everyone happy. But after a while, even those people grew to trust him more. They saw that Marcus did not try to change just to please whoever was in the room. He was not afraid to say no if he thought something was wrong, or yes if he thought it was right, no matter who was asking. This new way of leading made Marcus stronger. People depended on him more because they knew he would not change his mind every day. They knew that even if they disagreed with him, he would be honest and clear. Some people still did not like Marcus. Some never would. But they began to respect him for his strength and his steady approach. It was not easy to let go of the need for approval. Marcus still cared about his people. He wanted to be a good leader. But he learned that real respect comes from being true to yourself and making wise, fair choices, not from saying yes to every request. He saw that when a person is steady and honest, people notice this. Even critics and enemies watch someone who is steady and do not find it easy to push them from their path. Marcus wrote about these ideas in his private notes. He reminded himself that it is better to be respected than to be liked for something that is not true. He wrote that each person should look for approval from their own conscience first, and from others only when possible. He also reminded himself to always act kindly, but without losing his direction. As years passed, Marcus became better at living this way. He still faced many problems and many critical voices, but he learned to listen to others and still trust himself. If he made a mistake, he admitted it and learned from it. If he had to disagree with someone, he did so calmly and with respect. He stopped feeling the urge to change his words every time someone disagreed with him. This made his leadership stronger, and it made his own life more peaceful. Every person faces moments when they feel pressure to fit in or to win the approval of others. Marcus Aurelius found that this pressure does not lead to real strength. What matters more is being honest with yourself, having clear values, and being willing to make fair decisions, even if it means some people will not like you. It is important to treat others with respect, but not to give away your beliefs just to be accepted. Marcus's life became a good example of this lesson to others. In his time as emperor, Marcus learned that it is natural to want to be accepted. But he also learned that chasing approval leads to confusion and weakens a person's spirit. The more he stood firm in his values, the more respect he received from those around him. Even if some voices stayed critical or angry, Marcus found peace by knowing he was true to himself. His experiences helped him understand that approval from others can never replace true respect, either from yourself or from other people. Marcus's journey became clear when he saw that what really matters is to live in a way that is honest, fair, and kind, no matter what others say. As he kept following this path, he found a deeper strength, one that was not shaken by changing voices or opinions. Marcus Aurelius understood that respect does not come from chasing after approval, but learning this lesson was not simple for him. In his early years as emperor, he often tried to win over critics and people who doubted his abilities. At meetings, he listened to their complaints and objections, hoping that if he showed understanding or agreement, maybe their attitudes would change. He wanted to be seen as reasonable, as someone who listened well and cared about the people's concerns. He believed that with enough effort and the right words, it would be possible to turn his critics into friends or earn their trust. However, Marcus soon saw that no matter how much he worked to please everyone, some people were never satisfied. He tried to explain his decisions many times, hoping that repeating his reasons would calm those who disagreed. When they asked for changes, he often made adjustments, thinking that would show fairness. Still, some of these people continued to ignore him or spread rumors about his leadership. It did not matter how patient or gentle he was. The more he tried to please, the more they wanted from him. He felt more tired and less sure of himself at the end of each day. When Marcus looked closely, he realized critics find new reasons to complain. Some people simply wanted power for themselves or did not want to see him succeed, no matter what he did. Others enjoyed arguing, or they wanted to look important by finding problems with every plan. He noticed that when he changed his words to make one group happy, another group grew upset. The cycle never stopped. He also saw that people who acted weak or desperate for approval were treated with less respect in the long run, both in private meetings and in public. After seeing these things many times, Marcus began to question his approach. He wondered why pleasing others felt so important. He saw that this wish for approval had made him lose sight of his true values. Instead of choosing what was best for Rome or what he truly believed, he started to make choices just to avoid confrontation or keep certain people silent. He did not feel proud or peaceful about these decisions. Even when the people he tried to please acted happier for a short time, the feeling did not last. Soon, the same people or new ones found something else to criticize. Marcus Aurelius kept thinking about the meaning of real respect. He remembered moments when he saw strong leaders from the past. Some of them did not try to win over everyone. Instead, they chose what they believed was right and stood by it, even when it was unpopular. Those leaders faced opposition without losing control. People spoke harsh words to them, but they stayed calm and did not fight back with anger. Over time, even their enemies had to admit their strength, because they could not be moved by every harsh opinion or demand. He also learned from seeing the opposite. Leaders who constantly changed their mind to fit the loudest voices became less trusted. Their followers no longer came to them for clear answers. They were seen as easy to push around, not as strong or wise. This idea stayed with Marcus. He saw it in the courts, in the lives of senators, and even in simple conversations in the palace. He noticed that respect does not grow when someone acts from fear or when they hope that by saying yes to everything, they will finally be liked. As these lessons became clearer, Marcus began to change the way he acted. He learned to listen carefully to advice and criticism, but he stopped trying to win approval with every decision. When someone disagreed with him, he did not always try to change their mind. He responded with respect, but he did not allow their words to control his actions. He reminded himself that his main job as emperor was to serve all of Rome, not just a few opposing voices. He started to make choices based on what he knew was right, even if it meant facing complaints or arguments. Marcus soon noticed a new feeling growing inside him. He was less anxious and slept more peacefully. The need to please everyone did not control his actions anymore. With every decision he made from clear values, he felt stronger and more confident. He understood that no person, not even an emperor, can have everyone's approval. It is not possible to have every critic become a friend. Some will always disagree, no matter what is done. The important thing is to do what is fair and wise. As Marcus kept this new way, people began to treat him differently. At first, some were surprised or disagreed more loudly. They were used to seeing an emperor who bent to their wishes. But as days and months passed, they noticed that Marcus did not change himself just because of criticism. He listened, and he explained his reasons simply, but he did not apologize for doing what was right. Even those who disliked him found it hard to shake him from his chosen path. He learned that being steady made people respect him more, even if they did not always agree. People observed that Marcus did not argue with every complaint or try to defend his actions with many words. If he had a reason, he shared it clearly. If not, he said nothing extra. This calmness made others realize that he was guided by his own principles, not by fear of what others would think. There were still difficult days. There were still angry speeches and protests from those who thought they should have more power or say. But Marcus now understood their anger was not his responsibility to solve by losing himself. He learned that trying to satisfy everyone only led to confusion and more demands. Instead, his clear actions and steady nature helped others feel more secure, even when they did not get their way. Marcus kept learning from his mistakes. When he made a choice only to avoid argument, he felt the results in his own mind. He noticed that decisions based on fear of rejection were weak, and they often led to more trouble later. But when he acted from his own true judgment, problems were easier to handle, and he was respected much more. Through these daily experiences, Marcus shaped a new rule for himself. He would treat criticism as information, not as an order to change who he was. He discovered that every person faces this same problem, not just emperors. In every family, school, or workplace, people worry about what others will think. They hope that if they change enough, disagreement will stop and everyone will be pleased. But Marcus knew by now that constant effort to please leads to exhaustion. You never know who you are if every decision depends on the opinions around you. Instead, he found peace in accepting that some people will never change their feelings, no matter how he acted. He knew he could not control their thoughts or win their hearts by trying harder. He could only control his own actions and beliefs. The more he lived this way, the easier it became to lead with calm authority. He could listen, learn, and stay on his path without feeling pulled in all directions. Marcus also realized that letting go of the need for approval did not mean acting without kindness. He still wanted to understand the people around him. He still spoke with respect, but he stopped pretending or saying things he did not mean. His words and actions matched his real beliefs. Over time, people began to feel safe with this honesty. They might not agree, but they saw Marcus was not hiding anything or trying to trick them. As months went by, Marcus saw that his calm made other people calmer. Even when they were angry or disappointed, they learned he would not attack them or change his mind out of fear. Sometimes people did not like his choice, but they trusted that it was real and not just made to please the loudest voices. Marcus inspired those who watched him, showing that true respect is built through steady, honest actions. He noticed that even in private moments, such as when he wrote in his journal or thought about his day, he was more at peace. He did not worry about every word spoken against him. He judged himself by his own sense of right and wrong, not by the changing opinions of the crowd. This new freedom made his work as a leader meaningful. He also practiced forgiving himself whenever he fell back into old habits. If ever he felt the urge to win approval or worried about criticism, he reminded himself gently to focus instead on what mattered. He wrote that every person makes mistakes, and that learning to stand firm takes practice over many days and nights. He found comfort in making slow, honest progress. Marcus became aware of two truths. The first is that no person can have control over what others think or say. The second is that the only true control anyone has is over their own choices and reactions. He decided that he would work every day to do what was wise, fair, and honest, and allow others to decide for themselves how they wanted to respond. He became less afraid of disagreements. He stopped needing to prove himself with long explanations or arguments. He knew that some would not change their view no matter what he said. Instead, he focused on his duties, his values, and what would be best in every moment. He learned that if he could stay steady, treat everyone fairly, and not lose control of his emotions, he would be at peace with himself. He encouraged others to do the same. When his friends and advisors worried about their own critics or about being disliked, Marcus reminded them of this lesson. He told them that real worth is not given by others. It is earned each day by living in a way that matches your own sense of right. He said that the goal is not to be liked by every person, because this is not possible or necessary. The goal is to be calm, fair, and steady, so that even critics see your dignity. Marcus Aurelius held on to these lessons through times of chaos and crisis. Even when he faced war, disease, or betrayal, he tried not to change himself just to win favor or stop anger. He continued to listen, but he also continued to decide for himself what was fair and honest. Over time, his example showed the value of living without chasing approval. Other people copied him. Leaders in his court tried to be less quick to change for every complaint. Soldiers and citizens learned from his calm when they faced their own troubles. The city slowly became more respectful, not only of Marcus, but of each other. People saw that dignity and respect were stronger and longer lasting than momentary approval. Marcus's journey did not make life easy, but it made him strong and peaceful inside. By choosing to stop chasing the approval of others and to accept that not everyone will ever agree with him, he showed what it means to be a leader with real strength. This strength did not come from trying to convince or impress everyone, but from staying true to what is right and holding steady as a person, even in the face of criticism. He continued each day with this understanding. Every time he heard new criticism, he remembered what he had learned. He listened, but he did not let it control him. He was steady in his choices and kind in his actions, believing that this was the true path to being respected. He encouraged those around him to do the same, and his actions spoke louder than any argument. The meaning of respect became clearer to Marcus with every challenge. He no longer feared the opinions of enemies or doubters. He valued truth, fairness, and self-respect more than winning every argument or being liked by everyone. Through this, he found lasting peace, and those around him began to truly respect who he was and how he led. There were many times in Marcus Aurelius's life when he noticed a change in himself. He paid close attention to how he acted and reacted. There were days in the busy courts of Rome when voices grew loud and complaints filled the air. Some people argued about money, others about laws, and some wanted to be seen as wiser or more important than others. In these moments, Marcus sat and observed. He listened to every side and tried to understand what was really true and what was only noise. He understood now that respect had very little to do with getting everyone to like him. It was something that started on the inside and grew quietly. Marcus thought about this when he woke up each morning. He would remind himself that many things in the world were outside of his control, but his own actions and thoughts belonged to him. No one else could make him choose a certain path or feel a certain way unless he allowed it. This gave him a strong sense of peace, even during hard days. Marcus Aurelius learned that to gain real respect, he would need to begin with self-respect. Each time he decided what was right, even when people disagreed, he noticed that a calm grew inside him. He was able to look back at his choices without regret, because he knew he was honest with himself. When people around him saw this calm, they noticed something different in their emperor. He did not become angry when others were rude. He did not try to win arguments by shouting louder. Instead, he stayed quiet and spoke clearly, even when talking to people who did not like him. As seasons changed and the Roman Empire faced new troubles, Marcus depended more on these principles. There were problems with armies on the borders. Sometimes there were shortages of wheat and oil, and the city was tense. People sometimes grew fearful and looked to Marcus for guidance. In these times, even while people whispered and doubted, he stood firm. He weighed every choice by what was fair and kind, instead of searching for easy approval. Marcus often spent time alone, especially in the early morning while the city was still quiet. He wrote to himself about what he wanted to be. He reminded himself not to let anger from others enter his mind. If someone insulted him, he tried to understand what pain or confusion might be behind their words, but he did not let it control his own heart. He chose carefully what to let in and what to let go. The more Marcus held on to this quiet strength, the more people noticed it. Servants, guards, and advisors spoke about his calm in rooms where he was not present. Stories spread in the city about how the emperor did not lose his temper, even when he was treated unfairly. When news of his calm reached even the distant provinces, people wondered what made him so steady. Some people tested him, trying to see if he could be provoked into an angry or fearful response. But Marcus knew that his own mind belonged to him. He practiced keeping his emotions in balance every day. There were times when Marcus saw people in his court lose their self-respect. He watched men become angry at small insults or panic when their plans failed. Some shouted or made threats. Others tried to explain themselves over and over, hoping to be understood. Most of the time, these efforts did not work. People saw through these acts and respected them less, not more. Marcus realized that calm and honesty were what earned true respect. A person who can listen quietly, make a decision, and not be shaken by outside forces shows real dignity. He thought about his responsibilities as emperor. Every choice mattered, and he knew there would always be someone who disagreed. Trying to make every person happy led only to exhaustion and confusion. But if he stood by what was right, he felt strong inside. The respect he felt for himself became a much deeper kind of respect than anything given by others. One day, two leaders from far away came to meet with Marcus. They did not agree with his policies, and they saw Rome as weak. They spoke in harsh voices and insulted his way of leading. Some of his advisors looked angry, and a few expected Marcus to shout back. But Marcus did not react. He stayed quiet, listened, and then calmly explained his reasons for the choices he had made. He did not try to change the minds of these men, nor did he let their insults hurt his inner state. After the meeting, even those who did not like the emperor admitted that he could not be shaken from his path. Many times Marcus watched people in crowded markets or busy offices. He noticed that those who chased after praise or ran from insults were often troubled inside. They did not know if others liked them for who they truly were, or just for what they could give out of fear or a wish to please. In contrast, people who acted steady and fair, who kept their voices calm and their actions honest, started to earn a different kind of attention. Even those who argued or competed with them began to show quiet respect. Marcus realized again that lasting respect must always begin within. When he faced insults or harsh words, he chose not to become angry or run away. He did not fight to protect his reputation with arguments or by punishing those who spoke against him. Instead, he judged every comment and every situation by his own principles. If someone was right, he listened and changed. If someone was only trying to upset him, he let their words go away and did not carry them with him. Each time Marcus did this, he felt his strength grow. He felt lighter inside. He was no longer pulled back and forth by every opinion, and he did not lose sleep over small comments or misunderstandings. Over time, people saw that they could not control the emperor with threats, with praise, or with insults. He became known as a steady leader who made fair decisions and could not easily be moved. There were also quieter moments in Marcus's life that proved these lessons. When he met with his family at home, he tried to treat everyone with the same dignity, whether it was a child asking for help or an older servant with a complaint. He did not show more respect to the powerful and less to the weak. He understood that every person wants to be treated with a sense of fairness and kindness. He remembered that what matters is not how high someone's position is, but how steady and true their character remains when life is difficult. Marcus continued to remind himself of these truths whenever new problems arose. Sometimes, even as emperor, he made mistakes. He said the wrong thing or chose a path that was less wise. Instead of trying to hide these errors or blaming others, he accepted his mistakes, apologized, and made a plan to do better. He found that people respected a leader who could admit error much more than one who always pretended to be right. As Marcus practiced these lessons, he realized that self-respect and inner strength are not lost when others insult or judge you. They are lost only when you allow fear or anger to change your actions. When you stand with what is right, with clear mind and steady heart, dignity grows with you. Respect that comes from others is never as strong as the respect you build for yourself. Even in moments when Marcus was alone, he checked his own thoughts. If he felt hurt by someone's words, he asked himself why. Was it because he wanted everyone to like him? Was it because he feared what others would say? He tried to let go of these wishes and focus on what was true. Little by little, he saw that any anger or shame caused by others could be turned into patience and understanding. He learned that controlling his own reaction in hard moments was a skill that helped him every day. Marcus shared these ideas with those close to him. When his advisors talked about arguments in the Senate or worries about what the crowd might say, Marcus listened closely. He encouraged them to focus less on being praised and more on doing what was fair and wise. He told them that it is a waste of energy to spend each day worried about every voice that disagrees. Instead, they must pay attention to their own conscience, listen to true advice, and then act with courage. The more Marcus practiced this, the more natural it became. He no longer feared criticism. He did not try to argue every point or prove his worth to everyone he met. He trusted that steady actions would, over time, speak clearly to others. He did not depend on quick approval for his happiness. He waited, knowing that real respect always takes time and honest effort to grow. There were days when his choices were misunderstood, and some people were angry or disappointed. But Marcus knew that if he stayed honest, patient, and steady, the truth would become clear. He kept his words simple and his actions fair. In this way, he became an example for others, showing that real dignity and respect need patience, time, and the courage to let go of the things you cannot change. Marcus also found that his calm and clarity were helpful in making decisions about the Roman Empire itself. Because he was not lost in fear or driven by the wish to please others, he could look at problems more clearly. He could gather facts, listen to different sides, and then choose the path that matched his values. Sometimes this meant saying yes, sometimes no, but always with clear reasons. This made it easier for people around him to understand and trust his leadership. He remembered that every day brings new tests: an angry message from a governor, a crowd calling for change, an advisor pushing for a quick answer. Marcus greeted these with the same calm spirit. He reminded himself not to get angry or to worry about blame. He tried to see which decisions matched his own sense of right action. If he doubted, he waited and thought more before acting. This patience became clearer in his character each passing day. With each year, Marcus saw more evidence that true respect is built quietly. It is not won in crowds or in arguments, but in the daily practice of self-control, calm words, and actions that match your values. He became sure that respect, to be real, must come from the inside and then be seen by others in your example. Even people who had once been Marcus's strongest critics began to see that he could not be moved by pressure, hatred, or sweet praise. They saw that he was not interested in fighting every battle or winning every small fight. His focus was always greater, to do what is just, wise, and peaceful, without losing himself in anger or fear. The sense of calm and quiet confidence that Marcus built for himself became a guide not only for his rule, but for everyone who worked with him. Others began to practice listening more patiently and judging less quickly. People in the city spoke of the emperor's quiet strength and tried to bring more of that same spirit into their own homes and meetings. Marcus did not see himself as a perfect example. He knew every person has moments of weakness, regret, or anger. But he accepted that the only way to be respected was to return, each day, to simple, honest choices. If he was insulted or doubted, he did not answer in kind. If he was praised, he did not let it make him proud or careless. In every moment, he tried to stay balanced and true to what he believed. As far as he could, Marcus made his life a sign that inner strength and self-control are greater than the world's praise or blame. When times were easy, he practiced patience and kindness. When times were hard, he practiced self-respect and dignity. He knew that by living this way, he was teaching others how to act, not through orders, but through patient example. Through all of this, Marcus shaped a lesson that stayed with him. You do not need the approval of others to be calm, strong, and worthy of respect. The source is always within. Every day is a chance to return to quiet choices, to stand firm in your values, and to treat others with fairness and kindness, no matter how they act. Even if you are alone in your beliefs, if you act with true self-respect, eventually people see the quiet power in your actions. This principle became a cornerstone of Marcus's life as emperor and as a person. It made him more able to face the storms of leadership and the troubles of daily life. It gave him peace, even when the world was troubled, and built a legacy that others remembered long after his time. Marcus Aurelius believed that the real work of a person was to control what happened inside their own mind and heart. He learned over many days and nights that the way he acted when he felt strong emotions was more important than what anyone else said or did. This idea did not come to him in a single moment. It took patience, practice, and many mistakes for him to understand. In the busy life of Rome, Marcus was surrounded by voices, opinions, and the endless events of power and change. News of battles arrived at all hours. Messengers waited in long lines with stories of problems at the borders or anger from far-off cities. Inside the palace, arguments about money and laws filled the halls. Even small meetings could turn into heated debates. In these moments, Marcus saw so many people lose their calm. He saw advisors shout, soldiers complain, and leaders say things they later regretted. Marcus made a choice to act differently. He spent time learning how to notice his feelings before letting them control him. When he felt anger, he paused. He asked himself, "Why am I angry?" When he felt fear or worry, he took slow breaths, reminding himself that strong feelings are not facts. They are only signals. By noticing his emotions, Marcus understood that he did not have to act on them right away. This gave him power over his actions. Some days, Marcus met with people he knew did not like him or respect his position. They came with harsh words or complaints. In older times, he might have become nervous, answered too quickly, or tried to win their approval. But by learning to control his emotions, Marcus could listen without being moved by their anger. He could speak with a calm voice. He could wait. This way, he did not allow his anger or fear to make his decisions for him. He often remembered that many things in life are not in a person's control. Marcus could not stop wars with only a wish. He could not make every leader or advisor agree. He could not even avoid being misunderstood by the crowds of Rome. But he always had a choice about how he reacted to what happened. This realization was a source of strength that he kept with him each day. When others tried to provoke him, Marcus stayed collected. He listened, but he did not let his face or his words show that he was upset. He chose his answers slowly and clearly. Sometimes a person who was angry would start to lose their own anger when they saw the emperor was not moved. They might calm down and use kinder words. In other moments, people kept their harsh tone, but Marcus did not let it touch his sense of peace. He repeated inside himself that real power means not being led by the emotions of others. Sometimes Marcus spoke about this with his family and friends. He said that it is normal to feel anger, sadness, or fear. These are not bad by themselves. What matters is what you do when those feelings come. He told his young children, "When you feel angry, wait before you speak. When you feel afraid, listen to your breath. Make decisions when your mind is clear, not when you are full of rush or worry." By teaching them these simple ideas, Marcus hoped they would learn to be calm when trouble appeared. Marcus saw in his daily life how not controlling emotions could bring problems. When someone in the palace became angry and shouted, others stopped trusting them. People became nervous to talk to that person. Marcus saw that when jealousy or pride led someone, it made others feel uneasy. There were leaders in Rome who punished quickly or blamed others out of fear or frustration. These choices often made things worse instead of better. Over time, people lost respect for them. They saw these leaders as weak or unable to handle real challenge. By practicing calm and steady emotions, Marcus became an example. He was not protected from feeling strong things. He had worries about Rome, about his family, and about his own mistakes. But each time an emotion rose up, Marcus used it as a chance to practice control. When he made a mistake, he did not deny it in anger. He admitted what happened and tried to improve the next time. If someone tried to insult him, he did not answer with insult. Instead, he tried to learn if there was a lesson in what was said. If not, he let it pass. In times of trouble, Marcus reminded himself that his mind could be calm, even if the world outside was full of noise. At night, when he lay awake thinking about the day, he breathed slowly and remembered that he could choose to relax and prepare for tomorrow. If he woke early with worry, he reminded himself that every day is new, and he could start again with steady patience. He wrote simple reminders for himself, putting his lessons into short sentences. He wrote that an angry man hurts himself more than anyone else. He wrote that patience is stronger than shouting. He wrote that even in the hardest moment, he could keep his dignity by being quiet, fair, and calm. When Marcus met with groups of soldiers who had become anxious or fearful, he showed them the power of emotional control. If news of defeat or loss came, he did not panic with them. He listened. He gave clear orders, but with steady voice and calm eyes. This helped others feel less afraid. When people saw their leader was not afraid, they became stronger too. At times, storms shook the city, and people grew restless. If there was a fire in the markets or bad news from far off, crowds formed in the streets. People shouted, sometimes blaming the emperor for things outside his control. Marcus did not let these crowds move him to fear or anger. He sent calm messages and met with their leaders, always speaking quietly and with careful words. Over time, people saw that he was steady even when things were not easy. Marcus learned that real strength is quiet. It doesn't mean never feeling. It means choosing your actions instead of being pushed by quick emotion or outside pressure. He saw that people who shouted or argued to prove their power did not keep respect for long. But those who were patient and firm gained trust from others, even from those who might not agree with them. He noticed something important while meeting many kinds of people. When he was steady, those near him became more steady too. When he listened with care, others felt safe to share. If he forgave mistakes and did not hold grudges, people tried harder each day. This made his family and his team feel stronger and more united. Marcus saw that keeping control of his emotions did not only help him, it helped everyone who worked and lived with him. Marcus sometimes faced sudden pain or sadness. He might hear that a friend was lost in battle or receive a message of loss from a province far away. In these moments, he did not pretend not to feel. He allowed himself a quiet space to grieve, but he did not let sadness stop him from acting for the good of others. If he was tired, he rested. If he felt overwhelmed, he paused to regain his calm. Even in these private times, Marcus tried to use every feeling as a lesson to practice patience and steadiness. He believed that real respect came when people could see you were not led by anger, fear, or pride. Instead, your choices came from a quiet place, a mind that was clear and not hurried. Marcus saw that his best decisions happened when he waited a moment before acting or speaking. Sometimes saying nothing or waiting until others calmed down was the best action. Other times he needed to speak clearly and simply, but always with a gentle tone. Marcus reminded his advisors of these things. If they brought him news that made them upset, he showed them by example how to breathe, wait, and think before reacting. He told them that their job was never to fight anger with anger, but to bring calm where there was confusion. When a young leader acted out of pride or fear, Marcus sat with him and listened, then spoke about the value of patient actions. By helping his advisors and servants learn this lesson, Marcus slowly changed the culture of his whole group. Marcus noticed that when he kept his emotions calm, people trusted him with more responsibility. They felt safe to come to him with problems or mistakes. They knew he would not shout or try to blame them out of anger. This trust made the work of the empire go more smoothly. People learned that the best way to grow respect was not by having every answer, but by handling every moment with quiet steadiness. In the city, stories grew about Marcus's self-control. Guards told how he listened kindly to complaints, even when the hour was late. Merchants said he did not punish mistakes with heavy anger, but tried to teach and guide instead. Even those who did not agree with his choices began to respect the calm with which he acted. The more his calmness spread, the more others wanted to act in the same way. At festivals and special meetings, crowds would sometimes shout for change or demand new rules. Marcus always stood quietly and waited. He did not shout back or show anger on his face. If the crowd was restless, he used his voice to bring order. If someone insulted him, he answered with simple words or chose not to answer at all. Many noticed this and told their families that the emperor was not like other leaders. He did not need to show power by force or by loud words. His power came from how he acted in each situation. His lessons also reached outside the palace. When a judge in a far city heard that Marcus acted with patience during a difficult case, that judge tried to do the same. When soldiers heard that the emperor did not let insults control him, they worked harder to keep calm under pressure. The habit of patience and emotional strength spread slowly, one moment at a time, from the leader to the people. Marcus found that this way of living gave him a greater sense of peace at night. At the end of the day, he could look back and know his actions were his own. He did not have to regret words spoken in anger or decisions made in haste. Mistakes still happened, but they were smaller and easier to fix. He knew that whatever happened outside, he could always return to the calm inside himself. This memory gave him courage to face each new sunrise. He understood that patience was not weakness. It took more courage to wait and to stay quiet than to shout or fight. True strength came from being able to listen, to forgive, and to let others have their say. Marcus learned that many times people only wanted to be heard. If he listened patiently, their anger would fade and understanding could begin. He also learned to notice small moments and small victories. When he stayed calm in a hard conversation, he felt proud. When he helped another person calm down instead of adding to their worry, he knew he was practicing real strength. These small daily actions built up over time. They made his heart and mind strong so that when big challenges came, he could face them with steady hands. As time passed, Marcus found that this way of living not only created respect, but also trust and even love from those around him. His family felt safe with him. His advisors felt valued. Soldiers and citizens knew they could trust his word because he did not speak or act out of emotion, but from a place of wisdom and care. He remembered every day that he was still learning. There were times when he fell back into old habits and became angry or worried. When this happened, Marcus forgave himself and started again. He knew that mastering emotions and being strong inside is a work for a lifetime. The important thing is not to be perfect, but to keep trying and to learn from every mistake. Marcus Aurelius understood that emotional control and inner strength did not make problems vanish, but they changed how he experienced every day. He knew that proud or angry words are soon forgotten, but steady and fair actions are remembered for many years. By putting calm above quick emotion, he built a life that was respected by all, even those who once doubted him. He was not afraid of challenge or trouble because he knew he could return to his quiet mind. He learned to trust that truth and calmness would last longer than anger or shouting. Every moment was a new chance to live this lesson, and every person he met was another chance to teach by example. By choosing emotional strength, patience, and calm, Marcus helped create a world where people felt safe, respected, and able to grow. His way of living became a guide for others, not through force, but through patience and simple courage. This was a path open to anyone, not just an emperor, and it started with a quiet choice inside the heart. When Marcus Aurelius chose to live with calm and patience, his life began to change in quiet ways. People around him took notice. They started to watch not only what he said, but how he behaved when things became difficult. Some had known him for many years and remembered a time when he wanted to please everyone and worried about every opinion. Now, they saw a man who could listen to anger without becoming angry, who could answer insults with steady words or stay silent, and who made decisions without rushing or showing fear. There were many in Rome who did not trust Marcus in the beginning. Some officials did not want him to be emperor at all. They thought he would be weak, or that he was not ready for so many duties. In meetings, these people often tested him. They used harsh voices, asked hard questions, and sometimes tried to embarrass him in front of others. There were times when leaders from far parts of the empire sent messengers to complain or demand special treatment. Even outside the palace, in the city streets and markets, some people spoke against Marcus. They made jokes or songs that were not kind. They shared their doubts with neighbors and friends, saying the emperor was too quiet to rule such a great place. Sometimes groups gathered and shouted angry words when Marcus went past in his carriage. This made some in his guard worry for his safety and feel angry on his behalf. But Marcus always remained calm. There were also soldiers who remembered other emperors who ruled by force. These soldiers wondered if Marcus could handle problems on the battlefield, or if he would be too gentle. Some even made their own plans, hoping that if Marcus failed, they could gain power for themselves. Among advisors, there were whispers and plans that Marcus could feel, even if he did not always hear the words. Despite all this, Marcus stayed true to his way of living. He would greet every person, friend or critic, with the same calm and patient attitude. If someone argued with him, he listened. If someone came with a complaint, he asked for clear facts. If someone tried to trap him with tricky questions, he did not get upset. He would think quietly before giving an answer. He did not try to argue to win. He did not try to look stronger than he felt. He simply stayed steady. Over the months, something unexpected began to happen. Those who had been his strongest critics started to act differently. For some, it was a slow change. They would come to meetings expecting Marcus to react with anger, but he never did. They would try to make him nervous, but he did not lose control. They would shout, but Marcus answered calmly. Soon these critics started to see that their words did not control Marcus. He could not be moved by anger, fear, or pride. Even those who wanted to see Marcus fail found themselves growing quiet in his presence. His calm, his silence, and his strength made them stop and think. They realized that even if they could not agree with his choices, they could not claim he was weak. They found that they respected the emperor's self-control more each time they saw it. One day, there was a meeting with many advisors and generals. There was bad news about a battle in the north. Some men were angry and some were afraid. Voices grew loud. A group blamed Marcus for not acting sooner. A man who had never liked Marcus before stood up and spoke harshly, saying that only an uncaring leader could make so many mistakes. All eyes turned to Marcus. He did not show anger. He did not answer with the same harsh voice. He waited for silence, then spoke calmly and explained the reasons for his choice. He accepted the blame for mistakes made and promised to do better. The man who had spoken harshly became quiet. He seemed surprised by Marcus's answer. The room fell into silence. For the first time, some of the emperor's longtime critics listened closely. They saw that Marcus was not afraid of being blamed. He did not run from hard questions. He did not punish those who spoke against him. Instead, he treated everyone fairly and kept his mind clear. Little by little, people in the government and the army noticed that this kind of leadership was rare. Many began to come to Marcus not just with complaints, but with real questions and requests for advice. They saw that he could listen and help, but that he would not be pushed off his path by insults or pressure. In another part of the empire, a general who once wanted to take power for himself wrote a letter to Marcus. The general wrote that for many years he had doubted the emperor's strength. He admitted that he had watched Marcus, waiting for mistakes and hoping he would fail. But now, after seeing the emperor take bad news with patience and give clear orders without anger, he had changed his mind. He told Marcus that the soldiers respected a leader who did not lose his control in hard times. This general said he was now prepared to support the emperor fully. These changes were not just because of big public moments. Many of the most important shifts happened quietly, in hallways or private meetings. An advisor who once talked badly about Marcus would now show more respect. A senator who used to ignore his ideas might now pause and listen. Some critics no longer tried to trick or upset him. They knew it would not work. The emperor's steady way could not be disturbed by their words. Marcus did not celebrate or act proud when he saw these changes. He remembered that respect from others was not the main reason he lived this way. Each morning, he still reminded himself to make choices for the right reasons, and not just to be liked. He knew there would always be some people who disagreed and some who preferred loud or harsh leaders. Still, he saw that when people could not shake his calm, they slowly began to see him as a true leader. This also began to shape how followers acted with each other. When people saw that Marcus did not reward anger with anger, they tried to do the same in their own work. Advisors started to listen longer and argue less. Soldiers grew less quick to fight and more willing to talk. People in the city copied the example of their emperor. They did not forget their old doubts, but over time Marcus's example made them expect more patience and calm from each other. Marcus watched these changes carefully. From time to time, a new critic or enemy would appear. loud and full of plans. Sometimes an argument would rise up again, or someone would try to win power by pushing Marcus to lose his temper. But every time, Marcus would meet this with the same calm. He did not look for a fight. He did not take the bait. Critics soon saw that their efforts would not work. There was a story that went through the city, told in markets and homes. It was said that one evening, a group of senators met to talk badly about Marcus. They spoke of his quiet ways and wondered how he could stand so many troubles. When one of them finally met the emperor face to face and tried to insult him, Marcus simply listened and then asked, "What do you really want for Rome?" The senator could think of no answer. He realized that complaining about a calm leader did not solve any real problem. The story spread and made others stop and think. People began to see that real strength is hard to move. As Marcus's reputation for patience and self-control grew, he found that even those who had once disliked him wanted to work with him. They asked for his guidance. Some apologized for their past behavior. Others simply stopped fighting and came to him with honest worries. Marcus always treated them the same as anyone else. He was not petty. He never used their old words against them. He did not act as if he had won anything. He only kept moving on his path. The respect Marcus gained from former enemies was not loud praise. It showed in quieter ways. People stopped rumor and gossip about him. Fewer insults were spoken in meetings or on the streets. Decisions became easier when others listened with more care and less anger. Even people far from Rome heard that the emperor was not easy to upset or control. There were times when Marcus wondered if his patience could last, especially if troubles grew worse. Sometimes new voices tried to turn the crowd against him. Sometimes leaders from other lands sent threats or tried to make alliances to weaken his rule. In these moments, Marcus sometimes felt tired or alone. But each day, he returned to his main practice, to choose calm action, to not fight every insult, and to do what was fair. He saw that those who set out to make him angry or trap him with words grew tired of trying. They could see it did not work, so they gave up. Some started to ask Marcus how he stayed so calm. He would answer with simple words, telling them he practiced every day, remembered what was within his control, and let go of what was not. Slowly, trust began to grow between Marcus and those who had once doubted him. People saw that he did not act differently with friends or with enemies. His decisions matched his words, and his actions stayed steady. This made it harder for anyone to question his honesty or his purpose. Over months and years, this steady way created a bond that even the loudest voices could not easily break. Marcus did not think of himself as special. He knew that any person could learn to be calm, patient, and strong. He believed that with practice and time, people would see that self-control brings quiet respect, even from those who did not want to give it at first. He also saw that the example of one person could teach many others without using force or anger. He learned to forgive those who had tried to hurt or embarrass him. He remembered every person is shaped by worries and hopes, and sometimes fear makes people act against each other. Marcus chose not to hold grudges. By returning kindness for rudeness or silence for insult, he showed that dignity cannot be taken away by others. As the years passed, it became clear to almost everyone in Rome that Marcus would not be changed by pressure, nor would he let hatred or distrust shape his actions. His patience was stronger than any plan to upset him. Even in moments where mistakes were made or hard days came, his steadiness gave comfort to people who saw him as their leader. Sometimes those who had been loudest in anger became the quietest in meetings. They looked to Marcus for direction. On other days, old enemies would step forward to help during a crisis because they knew the emperor would listen and act fairly. The change did not come all at once, but little by little, respect replaced doubt. This way of leading shaped the whole city and the empire. Parents taught their children about Marcus's calm ways. Teachers spoke of how patience and self-control could solve problems that anger could not. Even visitors from outside noticed that Rome was a kinder and more peaceful place because its leader had chosen dignity over pride. Marcus continued to remind himself each day what mattered most. He practiced being patient with himself and with others. He forgave mistakes, both his own and those of his critics. He listened to the weak as well as the strong. He stayed simple in his words and gentle in his judgment. By living this way, Marcus proved that respect can be won even from enemies, when a person cannot be moved by insult, fear, or pressure. In the end, Marcus's patience changed more than his own life. It changed those around him. The lesson was simple but deep. A steady heart and mind are stronger than anger, pride, or the loudest voice. When a person lives this way, respect follows, slowly and quietly, from even the most unlikely places. Marcus Aurelius knew that his patience and calm could influence those around him, but he also understood that there were deeper reasons for his actions. He lived each day guided by simple principles that he chose for himself. These principles were not about trying to look wise or powerful. They were about what he thought was truly right, even when nobody was watching and even when it was difficult. Every morning, Marcus reminded himself of what really mattered. He told himself to stay fair in every decision. He wanted to listen to people fully, no matter their position or background. He tried to be kind in every word and every action. These three principles, fairness, wisdom, and kindness, guided him through all the situations he faced as emperor, whether easy or hard. When he had to make decisions about the laws of Rome, Marcus thought first about fairness. He asked himself if the decision would treat people justly. He wanted all people, rich or poor, strong or weak, to feel they were seen and heard. If a new law helped only a few but harmed many, he stopped and searched for a better answer. He often met with ordinary citizens to hear their problems, not just with the rich and powerful. By doing this, he learned what life was truly like for all people in the city. There were days when leaders tried to change Marcus's mind. Sometimes a senator would ask for something special just for himself or his friends. Other times, a group would bring many loud voices, hoping to get a favor or a new rule to help them alone. In those moments, Marcus stayed true to his idea of fairness. He listened carefully, but he never gave in to pressure or gifts. If a rule was not fair for everyone, he did not allow it. This sometimes made people angry, but over time even his critics could see that Marcus was not showing favoritism. They saw that his decisions were based on what was honest, not on who spoke the loudest. Wisdom was another principle that Marcus followed. He did not think he always had the right answer. Instead, he believed that wisdom came from listening before acting. When soldiers returned from battle, Marcus asked them to explain what they saw and what they needed. When farmers complained of poor harvests, he listened to their stories and waited before choosing how to help. He remembered what teachers and writers had shared in his youth, and he read from old books whenever he could. If Marcus did not understand something, he was not ashamed to admit it. He asked questions and asked for advice from people he trusted. Sometimes he changed his mind when he learned something new. He explained to those around him that wisdom was about learning every day, not about always being right. If he made a mistake, he confessed it openly and tried to make it right. People began to notice that Marcus did not pretend to know everything. This honesty made them trust him more because they could see he cared about truth, not just looking wise. Kindness was the third guide in Marcus's life. For him, kindness was not weakness or fear. It was a choice. Each day he chose to treat everyone with respect, no matter how important or unimportant they seemed. He greeted the people who cleaned the palace in the morning with the same care as he greeted visiting leaders from far countries. If someone brought him bad news, he did not blame or shout. Instead, he listened and thanked them for telling the truth. When a mistake was made, Marcus tried to help people learn from it, not punish them harshly. If a guard fell asleep on duty, he asked if the guard was unwell or tired, instead of only using anger. Many who served Marcus felt safe around him because they knew he would treat them with understanding. Over time, more people wanted to do their best for him. They respected him because he showed them respect first. One time, a poor family came to Marcus with a problem. Their land had been taken by someone who had more power. Other leaders might have ignored them because they were not important. Marcus listened to their story all the way to the end. He asked questions and checked the facts. When he saw they were being treated unfairly, he acted. He returned the land and spoke to the person who had tried to take advantage. News of this action spread through the city, and people said that their emperor cared about justice for all, not only for a few. Meetings in the palace started to feel different as Marcus's example was followed. Advisors were less quick to argue only for their own ideas. Soldiers spoke up if they saw something unfair, knowing that their views would be heard honestly. Some leaders who once thought only of themselves began to ask what would be good for all the city, and not only for their friends. Over months and years, Marcus's commitment to fairness, wisdom, and kindness changed the way people worked together. When it came to peace, Marcus made a special effort. Many times, powerful people wanted him to punish those who disagreed or fought against him. Instead, Marcus always searched for another way first. If someone was angry or made a mistake, he tried to speak with them and find an answer before using force. He believed that most problems could be made smaller by talking and by understanding each other. He did not want to fight when kindness or patience could work. Still, Marcus knew that not everyone would agree or become a friend. He accepted that some would always be against him. He did not use harsh words or try to win every argument. Instead, he let his actions show what he believed. He did not explain himself again and again to those who were not willing to listen. If someone was always looking for a fight, Marcus respected their right to feel that way, but he did not change his path. By living these values, Marcus became a person that others relied upon. His decisions were stronger because people trusted his reasons. They did not need to wonder if he was being influenced by secret deals or hidden pride. Even when choices were hard, people listened because they saw he was trying to be fair. Slowly, these principles made Rome a place where more people could trust each other. Neighbors argued less because they saw the emperor working for peace instead of for power. Marcus also showed these values at home. He treated his own family with the same care he showed in public. When his children argued, he listened to each side without choosing a favorite. If his wife worried about the news of the day, he spoke gently and honestly. He did not pretend to be above others because of his position as emperor. At home, he was simply Marcus, trying to live what he taught. Even when people tested him, Marcus stayed true to his principles. Sometimes leaders from other lands visited Rome and tried to bring gifts or special promises, hoping for favors in return. Marcus thanked them politely, but he did not allow any gift or promise to change what he thought was fair. He showed respect to every visitor, but his actions stayed honest. Some guests were surprised, but over time they too saw that Marcus cared more about doing what was right than about looking important. The city soon learned that there was little to gain by trying to bribe or trick the emperor. News spread that only honest people had his ear. Even those who once argued or disagreed with him learned that Marcus would listen and that he would be fair, even if their ideas were not chosen in the end. During special times of trouble, Marcus's values were tested more than ever. One year, there was a long drought, and food became scarce. People grew angry and afraid, and it would have been easy for Marcus to blame others or to give favors to those in power. Instead, he shared what food there was as fairly as possible. He took less for himself and gave more to those in greatest need. He spent many hours walking among the people, hearing their worries and comforting them with honest words. He reminded them that together, with patience and fairness, the crisis would pass. His actions calmed the city. When trouble came from outside, Marcus used wisdom and kindness again. He listened to his advisors, checked every report, and waited until he understood the situation fully before acting. If war was required, he made sure every soldier was prepared, but he also sent messages of peace whenever possible. He wanted to solve disagreements with words first. He did not speak about his enemies with hate. If he took any action, he explained to the people why it was necessary, so they could understand and trust him. This habit of honest communication spread calm even in tense times. As each year passed, more people wanted to act the same way. Children learned from listening to stories about Marcus's fair choices. Teachers read his words and explained to their students that being kind and wise was not just for emperors, but for everyone in Rome. Many started to believe that justice and fairness could be practical, not just an idea found in books. Marcus believed that every person could live by these principles. He said that fairness, wisdom, and kindness do not depend on money or age or power. Anyone can choose to act this way. He would often remind his family, his advisors, and even strangers he met that every small act of goodness matters. It is in the little things, listening to a neighbor, admitting a mistake, sharing with someone who has less, that true respect grows, both from yourself and from those around you. Years went by and Rome changed more than most could have imagined. The city became a little gentler. People took time to greet each other. Sellers at the market began to argue less and help more. Enemies who once would never speak now found ways to sit and talk. By watching the example of their emperor, the people remembered that everyone deserves fair treatment and a chance to be heard. Marcus did not pretend that living by principles was always easy. He still had days when he felt tired, when his decisions made people unhappy, or when he wondered if kindness would be enough. But he believed that the hardest path is often the most important one. He continued to remind himself each evening before sleep that if he acted with fairness, wisdom, and kindness, then he had done what he could. He accepted that not every problem would be solved quickly, but he trusted that patience and honest effort would bring better days. When Marcus looked back at his time as emperor, he felt thankful not for his power, but for the chance to live by these values. He saw that although he could not control what everyone thought or said, he could always control how he acted. He hoped that others, both high and low, would learn from his example. The strength of his leadership did not come from his title. It came from his daily choices, from the way he greeted others, from his willingness to listen, and from his refusal to do what he knew was wrong. Marcus understood that by living this way, he earned respect that nothing could take away. Even as new challenges appeared and Rome entered new times, Marcus's example stayed alive in the city and in the hearts of those who had watched him. He believed that the life of any person, no matter how simple or important, could shine with quiet power if they chose to act with honesty, wisdom, and kindness every day. This lesson is what Marcus hoped would last, not just for his own years, but for all those who came after. With the years, the memory of Marcus Aurelius became a teaching for the people of Rome. They remembered his calm voice, his fair judgments, and his way of treating everyone as worthy of respect. Leaders who came after him tried to follow his example, knowing that real strength comes from holding to what is right, even in small actions, and that respect grows when people see your values in your everyday life. When the people of Rome remembered the actions and choices of Marcus Aurelius, they wondered where his strength and calmness truly came from. They saw that his life followed a quiet pattern. He did not allow the world outside to change what he believed was good and right. Every day, in every kind of situation, he returned to simple ideas that gave him guidance. These ideas came from something called Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius first learned about Stoic philosophy when he was still young, many years before he became emperor. He did not come from a family that only taught about power and money. Some of his teachers had given him books written by wise thinkers from Greece. He read the words of people like Epictetus and Seneca. As Marcus read and listened, he was most interested in the part of their teaching that said, "You cannot control what happens outside you. You can only control how you respond inside." The lessons of Stoic philosophy gave Marcus a simple path to follow. The first lesson he learned was to accept that life is made of many things he cannot change. He could not decide if there would be storms or if the crops would fail. He could not choose the words that other people might use in the streets or in the palace. He also could not stop people from talking behind his back. Wars, illness, and the passing of time were things that might make any ruler afraid or sad. Stoic philosophy taught Marcus that it is useless to fight against things he cannot control. Instead, he learned to accept them. But this did not mean he gave up or stopped trying to act. Stoic philosophy also taught Marcus that his responsibility was to control his own mind and his own actions. He could decide to be fair, to be patient, to listen, and to speak clearly. If someone was rude or tried to hurt him with words, he could choose not to react with anger. If things did not work as he planned, he could choose patience instead of regret. If he felt fear, he could accept it, breathe, and return to his duties. The simple idea was this: everyone can control their own response, even when nothing else can be changed. Because Marcus believed in this, he practiced it every day. He looked at each situation and quietly asked himself, "Is this inside my control?" If it was not, he let go of worry or anger and moved forward. If it was, he made a plan and acted as well as he could. Over time, he saw that this kind of thinking made every problem smaller. He was less tired at night. He wasted little effort on what was not his job to fix. Many people think Stoic philosophy is hard or cold, but for Marcus, it was full of care and kindness. It did not make him close his heart or stop feeling. He still noticed pain, worry, hunger, and sadness in the world. He still wanted to help as much as he could. But Stoic philosophy helped him understand which actions were wise and which were just chasing after what could never be changed. It told him not to argue just to protect his pride, not to punish others for what was outside their control, and not to act out of fear of being disliked. Each morning, Marcus reminded himself of the main ideas of Stoic philosophy. He told himself that praise and blame are both outside his true self. People might say good things about him or bad or nothing at all, but their words did not change his values. He reminded himself that pain is only a feeling and that he could hold on to his dignity even when things became hard. He also remembered that each person he met, friend or enemy, was trying to find their own way through the world, just as he was. When Marcus sat in meetings, received new warnings from the border, or listened to angry voices, he returned to these ideas. He would pause and ask, "Can I control this?" If the answer was no, he stayed steady and silent, doing what he could but not becoming upset. If the answer was yes, he acted as wisely and kindly as possible. In this way, Marcus saved his energy for what mattered most. He would often write short notes to himself, using plain words. Sometimes he wrote, "Do not be controlled by the feeling of the moment." Other times, "Hold to your nature. Do not let praise or anger change it." In difficult hours, Marcus quietly repeated these words. He did not argue with others to win, but instead spoke firm and gentle words as a way to put Stoic lessons into life. Marcus also taught these ideas to his family and to the people who worked in the palace. When his children felt upset, he told them that strong feelings are part of being human, but that they do not have to rule the heart. When friends worried about rumors or plans made by others, Marcus reminded them to look at what they could actually do and let the rest go. His patience and calm became a daily lesson for everyone near him. He believed Stoic philosophy was not only for the rich or powerful. He explained its simple lessons to farmers, soldiers, and traders. He spoke about the value of patience, the strength in choosing your own response, and the peace that comes from leaving behind what cannot be controlled. He said that every person can choose to treat others kindly, to forgive mistakes, and to listen before acting in anger. Even if the world outside is noisy and uncertain, the world inside a person's mind can be steady. Marcus saw that the city became a calmer place when people practiced these ideas. Fewer voices were raised in anger. Arguments could end without harsh words. Sometimes old enemies learned to listen to each other. Markets were not only full of sellers and buyers, but people stopped to help when trouble happened. Even when Rome faced tragedy or loss, the lessons of Stoic philosophy kept Marcus steady. Some years the city was hit by plague, and many people felt fear and sadness. Marcus did not pretend that pain and sickness were not real. He walked among his people, talked to the sick, and made sure that help was given where needed. Still, he reminded everyone through his actions that even great loss could be met with patience and clear action. Marcus also faced betrayal from some he trusted. In each case, Stoic philosophy helped him not become bitter forever. He accepted the truth, learned from mistakes, and moved forward, letting go of anger as best he could. He reminded himself that he could not control the choices of others, but only his own reaction. In the Senate, sometimes others tried to use loud voices or harsh attacks to gain power or attention. Marcus responded by asking questions, listening, and refusing to lose his calm. If he disagreed, he said so with simple words. If he made a wrong choice, he admitted it. He believed that following Stoic ideas made his leadership stronger and helped others trust him. He told his advisors, "If we focus only on what we cannot change, we lose our energy. If we try always to please the crowd or avoid trouble, we forget our own path. If we stay steady in our goals and responses, we can help many people without losing ourselves." Because he lived this way, more people wanted to follow his example. At home, Marcus was the same as in public. If he was tired, he rested quietly. If something bothered him, he spoke calmly about it or wrote it down. He did not act out of pride or hurt others just to feel strong. By practicing Stoic ideas every day, he turned them from words into habits. Some people from other lands came to Rome to learn from Marcus. They asked about the secret to his calm. Marcus told them there was no secret, only daily practice. He said anyone could learn to pause before acting, to think before speaking, and to choose patience over anger. He did not promise that trouble would end, but he showed that trouble could be faced with clear eyes and a steady mind. Children heard stories of how Marcus did not fight with those who insulted him. They learned that he did not give extra gifts to people who praised him loudly. Instead, he looked for fairness in all things and reminded everyone that each day was a chance to make small choices in line with their values. Over time, Marcus saw that leaders and everyday people alike could act with the calm and wisdom that Stoic philosophy taught. When neighbors disagreed, they tried to talk rather than shout. When merchants lost money, they worked harder rather than blaming others. Soldiers followed orders, but also looked out for each other. Every small lesson in patience and self-control built a stronger city. Even when sadness visited Marcus or he made mistakes, he did not let despair last. He forgave himself and tried to do better the next day. He believed that practicing Stoic ideas was never finished, but always worth repeating. By finding peace in himself, he was able to bring more peace to those around him. People remembered that Marcus did not place himself above others. He often explained that Stoic philosophy could be practiced in any home, farm, or market. He said, "You do not need power or many things. You only need to be honest with yourself, to try your best each day, and to let go of fears you cannot change. Many men and women found comfort in these words. When Marcus became very old, he still followed the lessons of his youth. He rose early, thanked those who worked with him, and spent moments in thought about what could and could not be changed. When he looked at the world with its pain and joy, he did not expect it to be perfect. He saw his place as someone who could do a little good each day by choosing his response, no matter what happened. His writings were saved by many who valued his wisdom. People read his notes, often written late at night or just before dawn, and found in them the same simple ideas: be kind, control your own mind, accept what life brings, and act with fairness always. In markets and in fields, those lessons grew strong. Parents taught their children not to let anger guide their actions. Teachers asked students to forgive small mistakes and help each other. Soldiers, workers, and merchants reminded themselves to focus on their own choices, even when the world was noisy and full of trouble. Marcus Aurelius showed through his life that Stoic philosophy means more than words. It means living each day by choosing what you can truly control and letting go of all the rest. It means treating people with kindness even when they are not kind. It means listening more than shouting, acting more than complaining, and remembering that peace is something you build inside your own heart. The people of Rome, and many after them, saw that real dignity and respect last only when they come from the inside. When someone lives by the lessons Marcus learned, they can stay steady through every storm and teach others to do the same. By practicing Stoic ideas, not just knowing them, it is possible for anyone to act with calm, wisdom, and strength wherever they are and whatever they face. When people in Rome watched Marcus Aurelius go about his days, they realized he was not different from everyone else because he was emperor. He followed ideas that any person could try, no matter their work, their home, or how much money they had. He showed through his choices that strength, calm, and self-respect did not require a fancy title or great power. Every action, big or small, was a chance to use the lessons he learned from Stoic philosophy and from his own life. Anyone who wished to practice this way of living could begin right away. Marcus often said that every human has the ability to decide how to respond, even if they cannot choose all the things that happen to them. This means that if someone faces a hard problem, they can still choose to be patient. If a person is insulted by another, they do not have to argue or get angry. They can listen quietly or simply do nothing, letting the hurtful words pass by. If someone feels alone or afraid, they can remind themselves to be calm and to keep doing what they know is right. For many people, it is difficult to stay calm when someone else is rude or when life seems unfair. Marcus faced these problems too. He had people around him who said unkind things, who tried to make his work harder, or who laughed at his choices. Still, he did not let those moments decide how he would act. He trained himself to pause before he answered, to ask himself if it was helpful to speak, or if it was better just to move on. He knew that silence was sometimes more powerful than a quick answer. People noticed that Marcus did not try to please everyone. This idea was important. Chasing after approval from each person only made people confused and unhappy. Marcus taught by example that someone should not change their truth just to be accepted. Instead, they should listen to others, but act in a way that fits their own values. He showed that real respect does not come from outside, but grows from keeping promises to yourself. Even in moments of anger or fear, Marcus used his breath to help him. He stopped and counted each breath slowly, saying to himself that the feeling will pass. He reminded others that big emotions are normal, but each person is responsible for their own behavior. He said that anyone who wants to be strong inside should not try to control other people, but instead focus on their own mind and actions. When someone tries to pressure you with bad words, you have the choice not to respond in the same way. Children in Rome learned from Marcus too. They saw that he forgave small mistakes. He did not punish harshly or humiliate others in public. If someone learned from their error, Marcus respected them. This taught young people that being honest and making things better was more important than being perfect. It showed that everyone can work to improve, no matter where they start. In the crowded city, many people argued and competed. Some traders fought for better places in the markets. Neighbors sometimes yelled at each other over small problems. Marcus believed that any person in these situations could still hold on to their peace. If someone cut in line or spoke rudely, a person practicing inner strength could stay quiet and not take the bait. That calm would not solve every disagreement, but it would protect the person's own mind. Others would soon see that they could not easily upset someone who was firm and patient. At home, Marcus showed his family that kindness does not depend on how people treat you. Even if he was tired from a long day or heard sad news, Marcus tried to answer his children and servants with gentle words. He listened, gave thoughtful answers, and did not argue over small things. He was not always perfect, but he apologized when he made mistakes. This taught his family that strength comes from trying again, not from never failing. People far outside the palace talked about Marcus's way of living. Soldiers spoke of how the emperor stayed calm in moments of danger. Farmers remembered how he listened to their stories before he made decisions. Merchants shared stories about his patience when their business failed or when prices changed. Each person understood that Marcus's lessons were not only for kings and generals. They belonged to all people. Practicing calm, steady inner strength did not require any special talent. Marcus himself had days when he felt tired, when he worried, or when problems built up. He wrote in his journal each morning or night to remind himself of what was most important. He said, "Start each day fresh. If you failed today, try again tomorrow. Always return to your deepest values." This habit helped him grow stronger each year. Anyone can begin to keep a small journal or quiet practice. You do not have to write many words. It is enough to ask yourself, did I stay calm today? Was I honest? Did I treat people with fairness? These small questions help remind a person to return to their best self, even when life is busy or full of troubles. Marcus often asked people, "What can you control right now?" He taught that every person owns their own mind and their own actions. You may not be able to make the sun shine or stop a war, but you can always choose to be patient, to act kindly, and to forgive quickly. If you focus all your energy on what you cannot change, you will become tired and sad. But if you put your care only on what is in your hands, you will find you have more strength than you thought. It can be scary to stay steady when everyone around you is upset or angry. Marcus knew that sometimes the crowd wants you to shout or argue back. But he trusted that the quiet choice was always better, even if nobody else was doing it. He believed that in time, people would notice the difference and maybe choose to act in the same way. Many times, people do not feel strong on the inside right away. Marcus said this was normal. He told others that each person is learning every day. The work of building inner strength does not end. It is not about reaching a perfect result. It is about trying again and again with every new challenge. If you make a mistake and lose your temper, forgive yourself and start again at the next moment. Do not give up or call yourself weak. Each small effort builds up over time. In markets and on farms, people talked about how Marcus solved problems by listening and asking questions before choosing what to do. He did not rush to judge. He tried to understand. This habit is something anyone can copy. When you feel hurt or angry, you can pause and listen more carefully. You can wait a moment and think before speaking. These simple actions show real wisdom. Marcus said that you do not have to argue every point or fight to win every discussion. Sometimes being quiet is the better path. Other people will notice when you do not get pulled into small fights. They will start to see that you respect yourself enough not to waste energy on things that do not matter. In difficult times, Marcus repeated to himself that peace comes from the inside. If you lose a friend, if a plan fails, or if someone says something unkind, remember this idea. You may not like what happens, but you can still act with grace. You can still move forward, learn, and keep your dignity safe. This idea of practicing calm and steady strength is not only useful for leaders. Marcus believed children, parents, and all workers could use it. When there is noise or fear or anger nearby, you can still choose to act from your best self. If you take care to be fair, to listen, and to act honestly, people around you will trust you more. Even if they disagree or do not understand at first, they will remember your actions. Marcus saw that inner strength helped in times of change. When new problems came to Rome, or when old ways stopped working, people turned to those who stayed steady. They hoped for a calm voice and a clear plan. Marcus showed that you do not have to know every answer, but you must try to do what is right, moment by moment. He told his advisors to look after themselves and not expect praise for every good choice. Good work may not be noticed right away, but it is not wasted. It grows slowly, changing how people relate to each other. Even when critics seem to win today, time will show whose actions were kind and steady. Marcus knew that sometimes people would laugh at the quiet person, call them weak or ignore them. He did not let this bother him. He understood that respect is something you earn with your life, not something given by those who do not see the truth. If he was treated unfairly, Marcus acted with simple kindness, showing that dignity could not be taken away. Parents in Rome started to teach their children that a strong person is not the one who shouts the most or wins every fight. They said, "Be like Marcus. Listen more, argue less, and act kindly." These small lessons spread through homes, workshops, and even the armies that guarded the city. They made dealing with problems less frightening and helped people feel more connected. When people felt lonely or left out, Marcus reminded them that everyone belongs, not because of what others say, but because of how they act. He encouraged people to find their own path, trust their sense of right and wrong, and treat themselves with the same patience they would show a friend. When you make a choice that matches your values, you are never truly alone. Even in times of loss and change, Marcus stayed steady. When he lost friends or had to make difficult choices, he allowed himself to feel sad, but he kept moving forward. He taught people not to hide from sadness and not to run from discomfort. Instead, he said, "Sit quietly with your feelings, learn what you can, and then continue with calm and hope." In the army, when young men were afraid for their future, Marcus spoke to them about the power of returning to what they could control and letting go of fear. He said, "No matter what battle comes, you can always choose your attitude. Fear is normal, but you are more than your fear." Soldiers respected Marcus because he never showed off or acted brave just to impress others. His honesty and calm set an example for courage. In daily life, whether sweeping the street, cooking food, or teaching children, people remembered the lessons of inner strength. They found small ways to be steady. They helped a neighbor, forgave a mistake, or waited patiently on a hard day. Over time, all these small actions made the city stronger and more peaceful. Marcus did not write new rules for people to follow. He shared old wisdom and lived it. He showed that every person has the tools they need inside themselves: patience, courage, and kindness. If you practice them every day, you live with self-respect and quiet confidence. The story of Marcus Aurelius became a teaching for many. It showed that no matter your job or the size of your home, you can learn to hold to your values, keep your calm, and respect yourself even when others do not. This life is open to all who decide to follow it. Every morning, Marcus woke up and began again, practicing the same lessons that all people could use. As the city of Rome changed and grew, more people followed the example of Marcus. They saw that being kind and steady was not always easy, but they also saw that it brought peace and real respect, both from others and from themselves. People new to the city, young and old, learned that the way to a strong life was simple. Work on what you can control, let go of what you cannot, forgive yourself, and stand tall in your truth. This lesson grew and lasted because it did not depend on special talent or position. It showed that each day is a new chance to be strong and gentle. In every part of life, each person can take a step closer to the quiet confidence and inner strength that Marcus Aurelius lived by and passed on to everyone around him. In every part of Rome, the influence of Marcus Aurelius could be felt. He did not force his ways on the people. Instead, he lived quietly each day, holding to his values, choosing what was right, and treating everyone with fairness and patience. Those who watched him noticed that his strength did not come from loud words or from winning every argument. His strength showed in his calmness, honesty, and steady confidence, even when faced with trouble or disagreement. People started to understand that Marcus's sense of respect for himself and his way of earning respect from others was something lasting. They saw that his dignity could not be given to him by the crowd, nor could it be taken away by criticism or insults. His quiet confidence was different from pride. He did not act as if he was better than others. He acted as if he knew the truth about himself and trusted in his own choices day after day. Citizens of Rome talked among themselves about what it meant to be strong inside. They saw that anyone who chose their own actions, spoke with care, and acted from the heart could build the same kind of strength that Marcus showed. This idea spread from the palace to the markets, from the schools to the far corners of the city. People began to take more care with their words and actions, not just to copy the emperor, but to find that same peace of mind and dignity within themselves. This quiet kind of confidence did not mean that life always became easy. Even as people tried to live better lives, they still faced losses, arguments, or difficult days. Marcus himself had times when he made mistakes, felt tired, or was misunderstood. But he did not let these moments rule over him. He was gentle with himself, forgiving each mistake and coming back to his values. He saw challenges as normal parts of living, not as things that could ever take away his self-worth. In the years of his leadership, many new problems appeared in Rome. Sometimes there were shortages of food or water. Illnesses entered the city and spread quickly. Old disagreements between families or groups would start up again. Through all of this, Marcus did not abandon his calm. People saw that he made decisions from a place of stillness and patience. If he did not have the answer right away, he waited and listened. If he spoke simply and honestly, never to win approval, only to help or bring peace. When others tried to blame him for the city's troubles, Marcus did not argue or punish them. He accepted their feelings and looked for real answers. He never let anger or fear push him into actions he would regret. Instead, he looked for ways to do good, even if his actions were small. Each step, each word, was a chance to show self-respect and to invite respect from others. Some people thought that Marcus showed too much patience, that he should fight back or use his power more forcefully. But over time, even his critics began to see the results of his quiet approach. Arguments in the Senate became fewer. People listened more closely at public gatherings. In families, parents taught their children about the value of keeping their word, listening before judging, and not shouting even when upset. Anyone watching could understand the pattern. When a person lives with quiet confidence and holds tightly to their sense of self-respect, others start to notice. They may not agree at first, or may even challenge it, but they test and push less as the steady actions continue. People see that such respect does not depend on opinion, status, or force. It grows from inside and cannot be shaken by outside events. As Marcus grew older, his example stayed strong. He did not try to change the world with big speeches or promises. He changed it quietly, with a kind word to a frightened child, a fair judgment in a dispute, a calm answer to a loud question, or a simple act of forgiveness. His life was a daily lesson in the power of quiet strength. He knew that everyone can follow this way. You do not have to be born into a rich or powerful family. You do not need special talent. You do not have to know every answer or be perfect in each moment. Respect and confidence grow simply by living honestly, making fair choices, and returning to your values every day. At the end of each day, Marcus took time for himself. Sometimes he wrote in his journal. Sometimes he walked in the gardens or talked quietly with his family. He reflected on his actions. He asked if he had been fair, if he had spoken kindly, if he had listened well. He forgave himself for anything he wished he had done better and made a promise to try again tomorrow. This simple habit kept his mind at peace and his confidence strong. People saw that Marcus was not afraid to admit when he was wrong. If he made a mistake, he said so. If someone brought him a better idea, he thanked them and changed his approach. He did not see this as weakness. Instead, he believed that honesty showed real confidence. By hearing many voices and staying open, he helped the city find wise answers to its problems. Children learned that saying sorry or listening with respect made them stronger. Workers saw that handling disagreements calmly helped get results. Even leaders began to notice that patience and fairness built teams that lasted longer and worked better. Marcus's way of leading was remembered as much for its kindness as for its wisdom. Sometimes visitors from faraway places came to see how the city was governed. They watched the emperor in his daily routine. They saw that his power was not loud or showy. It was in his steady attitude and his simple words. They left Rome talking about the quiet strength that shaped not just one person, but an entire city. Everywhere in Rome, small changes grew. Neighbors greeted each other instead of arguing. Merchants settled disagreements with words instead of fights. Soldiers treated each other with more respect. The city became more peaceful, not because there were no troubles, but because people tried to handle each one with patience and honesty. Marcus never lost sight of the basic lessons that guided his life. He reminded everyone, treat others as you wish to be treated. Act honestly, even when it is hard. Forgive quickly and return to kindness. These simple rules helped people remember what really matters. He also taught that confidence is quiet. It comes when you do not need other people to tell you who you are. When you trust your own fair mind, and when you live by your own values, you are strong inside. Even if the crowd is against you, you do not change who you are just to fit in. This understanding spread across Rome. People who felt small or ignored began to see their own worth. People who once feared the opinions of others learned to stand steady. The city was filled with more understanding, and there was less harm done by quick words or hurt feelings. Some people continued to face challenges. Not all problems were solved, and not every day was peaceful. But whenever someone chose not to argue or forgave a harsh word or stood quietly for what was right, there was a little more respect in the air. These small acts carried the spirit of Marcus Aurelius to new places and new generations. Even after Marcus was gone, his example lasted. His writings, his many simple sayings, and the stories people told about him were shared for years and years. Many found hope in his way. They remembered that the power to be respected does not depend on being famous or perfect. It depends on telling the truth, listening with patience, and acting with fairness, again and again. Parents, teachers, workers, and leaders alike taught that greatness is found not in force, but in steady character. They reminded others that real confidence is not loud or full of pride, but gentle and sure. In every home, people practiced these lessons in small ways, and Rome was made better by every quiet effort. Marcus Aurelius was remembered not for the size of his army, but for the strength of his spirit. His wisdom was found not in long speeches, but in a life lived with purpose. His respect was not won by the fear of others, but by the quiet trust he placed in himself and the kindness he showed to all he met. As time passed, many more cities and people heard his story. They too tried to build lives with patience, honesty, and quiet confidence. They learned that peace in the mind brings peace to families and peace to whole communities. They found that every person, no matter their place in life, can be a leader by example. Marcus's way teaches that every sunrise is a new opportunity. Each day brings the choice to build self-respect and to offer respect to others. Through mistakes, confusion, and challenge, people can return again and again to what matters: honesty, fairness, and kindness. The smallest decision can show the greatest character. A kind word in a tense moment, or the choice to stay silent when others fight, carries more power than many speeches. Marcus's life is proof that quiet confidence can change hearts, and steady respect for oneself can build a better world. In every corner of Rome, his memory stirred people to listen more closely, to judge more gently, to do what was right even when it was hard. Marcus Aurelius left behind no promise of a perfect world, but the gift of a simple path. Be true to yourself, respect others, and hold strong within, no matter what happens outside you. Many years later, people still found comfort in his example. In times of trouble, they read his words and remembered his calm. In moments of fear, they remembered his patience. In the face of strong opinion or harsh insult, they remembered how he met every challenge with quiet dignity. Each generation could take up these teachings and live by them, knowing they would not always be easy, but that every honest effort made life a little better for themselves and for others. The respect of others may change or fade, but the respect you build by living your values lasts your whole life. So the legacy of Marcus Aurelius did not end with him. It passed from person to person, family to family, across years and centuries. It stayed alive through every act of patience, every fair decision, and every gentleness shown when others did not expect it. To this day, his life remains a reminder that the most powerful kind of respect begins within. There is no need for loud praise or approval from the world. There is only the quiet, lasting strength that comes from living honestly, treating others fairly, and trusting in your own true heart.